You ready? All right.
Go ahead.
Well set?
Yeah.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the October 5th, 2023 meeting of the Lower Downtown Design Review Commission. As we kind of get started here, let's start with some introductions. Craig, let's start with you.
Craig Lawrence, architect, the business owner operator position.
Rick Glick, property owner.
I'm Heather Vasquez Johnson. I am in the practicing architect position and chair.
Amy Sanborn, preservation architect.
Tom Saw, timber contractor. Jim Gravener, resident.
Thank you.
And I'm Brittany Bryant, Denver Landmark Preservation staff.
There we go. Getting started today quickly with some audio tips for people who are joining us virtually. Please make sure that you have Zoom downloaded on desktop, laptop, tablet, or mobile device. Click on your audio settings and bring up background noise suppression and turn your volume and microphone up. For either presenters or public commenters, when it is your turn to speak, please click the microphone icon at the bottom of your screen to mute or unmute. The staff here will make sure that you're a presenter and able to join in and speak. If you expand the menu next to your microphone, you can look at additional options to select your speaker and microphone devices, whether you're on a headset or earbuds. We're working right off of your device, and then you can test your microphone and speakers as well. And if you're still having audio challenges, we suggest that you switch to phone for audio. All right, and so the first item today is, yes, there's meeting records for approval from the September 7th, 2023 meeting. Any members of the commission have comments or changes to those meeting records? I'm seeing none, so meeting minutes can be accepted. So first thing on our agenda today is the consent agenda. I will announce what is on the consent agenda. If anybody on the commission would like to pull that item off the consent agenda, please let us know and then we'll take a motion. So there's one item on the consent agenda today. It's item 2023-COA-405 at 1500 Winecoop Street for a projecting sign. Does anybody wish to pull it off the consent agenda? And if not, would someone care to make a motion?
Sure, I move to approve the consent agenda.
And Jim second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any abstain? Any against? Okay, motion passes unanimously. If you are on the phone or on virtually for consent agenda, congratulations, your item has passed and you can enjoy the rest of your day. So we'll move into the design review items. A quick rundown of the process on that. I will announce each item on the design review as we start. If there's any members of the commission that need to recuse, they will let us know. Staff will introduce the application and discuss the staff recommendation. Commissioners will have at that time opportunities to ask questions of staff. And after that, we'll move into the application or the applicant presentation, which is 10 minutes. After that, commissioners will question the applicant for any clarification items. We will open it up for public comment. If there is no public comment, we will get staff clarifications if necessary, kind of close the public comment point and open commission deliberation and move into commission mission and vote. Okay, so getting started, the first item that was on the design review was withdrawn. So we will start today with 2023-COA-404 at 1525 Blake Street.
Video. And then. So the first application is for additions and alterations to the existing courtyard to 1525 Blake Street, which is a contributing building in the Lower Downtown Historic District. This use has been home to Rio Grande Restaurant for several years, and they did use the patio to the north of the site for outdoor dining. They did move to Wazee Street, and since that time, it has sat empty. The use will continue to remain as a restaurant use with the new tenant. So today we're looking at a one-story addition, an elevator stair overrun addition, and some outdoor storage space, and some courtyard screening walls. So the existing courtyard screening wall, which is a metal rail with kind of a trellis detail above, will be demolished at the front of the site. And then at the rear of the site, there is a more solid wall separating the courtyard from the parking space behind. That will also be demolished. And then there will be some alterations to the north wall of the historic building. Historically, there was a building adjacent to this building. This is a missing site within the Lower Downtown Historic District. As you can see by the markings on the wall where the historic building sat. And then to the north of that is the Sugar Cube building, which is a new development within the district. So here is the existing site plan, and here is the proposed first floor plan showing the alterations to the courtyard. There will be parking in the rear still as there is today. However, the courtyard is expanding somewhat. There will be new ADA ramping and parking at the rear to allow access into the new elevator addition, which is just here. And then there is outdoor storage as well off of that elevator addition. That is just open space with no roofing above it. And then you can see alterations to the courtyard that is proposed. And then along the wall with the Sugar Cube building, there will be planter boxes and a fountain feature added. And then a new screen wall vestibule that will allow ADA access into the historic building, as the historic recessed entry is up a step and is not ADA accessible. To redirect traffic into this building, a new rail will be added into the storefront in front of the historic entry. And then the doors will be fixed, but no other alterations are proposed to the historic entry. Here is the second floor plan. So on the second floor, the elevator addition will go up to 2 stories in height. Again, it will have a vestibule space between the historic building and the elevator stair massing. The vestibule space will have glazing to provide transparency. The elevator will be clad in brick and metal panel as well to create a hyphen and contrast between the structures. Here is the existing and proposed roof plan. The applicant is installing a skylight on the historic building. The skylight placement and location does appear appropriate. However, we do need additional details on the skylight to ensure that it is constructed of high quality materials and not a bubble mounted skylight per our requirements. So here is the front facade. At the top of the screen, you can see the proposed alterations, and at the bottom, you can see the existing conditions. So again, that rail will be added to the front of the building to redirect traffic into this new entry vestibule, which is ADA accessible. The entry vestibule is essentially a sliding operable glass wall, and then it does transition into a concrete masonry screen wall that has circular details. And this is a covered space, which will have a green roof on top of it. But it is open and you can walk through the screen wall here or through the entry vestibule here. So here is the proposed screen wall. Again, it is constructed out of concrete. It has circular detailing and closed detailing as well. So it's a breeze block. The inspiration for the design is the circular motif on the existing historic building parapet, which you can see much better in your building packet. But essentially, this is the inspiration for the circular design and the square patterning. Here you can see the detail of that green roof as it slopes down from the entry vestibule towards the Sugar Cube building. And then on the other side of the screen wall, you can see that there is some seating proposed, and then that glass vestibule will open up into the courtyard as well. So here is the north elevation of the historic building. Along the north elevation, this existing ground floor opening will be minimally altered to install new bifold doors. And then here is the location of the proposed one-story addition. This addition is 10 feet in height and has a footprint of 20 feet 9 inches by 7 feet 6 inches. It is kind of more conceived as a bay window addition. It will be clad in metal panel with glass operable windows. The elevation, the brick elevation down here on the ground floor will have a new wash added to it. All the brick on this building has been painted. Typically, we don't encourage alterations to historic brick, but as this has already been painted, we don't feel that it will negatively impact the brick. On the second floor, additional operable windows will be added. They are set back from the front facade, and then they will have a precast stone sill. These are also operable windows. They're smaller at the front to reduce the appearance and impact from the street, and then larger at the rear. These windows will have a detailing similar to the windows on the front facade with this brick banding detail, so that detail will be preserved, but they will be identifiable as new with their precast sills, their size of openings, and their new window operations. So here you can just see that detail of that brick that will be used around those windows there. This is the elevator addition here, but I have additional elevations to show that better. So here is the proposed alterations to the courtyard. The courtyard will also be repaved with a new concrete paver. And here you can see that bump out of the proposed one-story bay addition. It is to be clad in metal panel. We're just asking for additional detailing on that metal panel to ensure it's high quality and has a matte finish. And then here you can see that detailing around the new windows as well on the north elevation. There will be planters throughout the courtyard as well to provide some green space on the interior. This is the wall along the Sugar Cube building, so it will have a fountain detail added to it, as you can see here in this elevation and rendering. That is going to have a lime wash added to it as well. This wall is not existing, but it will be constructed out of brick that is salvaged from the demolition and other salvage brick that matches the existing conditions. This is just another section here of that outdoor storage space that is open to above, has a cap on it, and then a planter box. Some details of the fountains and planters along the north wall. And then here is the proposed elevator addition. This is the interior courtyard elevation. So this section here is clad in metal panel, again, asking for additional detail on that. And then this portion here is clad in brick, again, salvage brick to match the existing conditions. It will be painted to match the building. And then we have the outdoor storage space that will have a lime wash on it. So here's the rear elevation, minimal alterations proposed to the rear elevation. This existing door opening on the ground floor will be infilled with brick, and then no other alterations are proposed to the historic building. Again, this non-historic site wall will be demolished and replaced with this new site wall that it also serves as outdoor storage area, new ADA accessible ramp, and again, that elevator addition with the metal panel, hyphen, and glazing, and then the brick configurations. Here are just some section details of the proposed alterations. So you can see that it is high quality construction. It's very detailed in nature, but we just are asking for additional details on this metal panel for the one-story addition and the elevator addition, just to ensure that it's high quality and has a matte finish to it. So here are the proposed alterations from the street. Again, generally speaking, staff are supportive of these alterations. We feel that they do comply with the design guidelines for the Lower Downtown Historic District. We did also assess the proposed additions and alterations to the contributing building with the general design guidelines for Denver landmark structures and districts. And generally speaking, we're just asking for additional information on the skylights and additional information on the architectural metal to ensure the profile and finish complies with guideline 3.6D, which requires traditional application and paneling install and a matte finish.
Great, thank you, Brittany. Do any commissioners have questions for staff?
We have any? Are there any LODO regulations or requirements around irrigating green roofs?
We do not have requirements for that.
Do we even have a purview or a say on that?
You do have purview over it because you have purview over the vestibule structure, what specifically gets planted up there. That's not something we have purview over, but if you have concerns over like the irrigation and things like that, I think that would be friendly recommendations to the applicants.
Great, thank you.
Jim?
Then
Question, and I don't know exactly how to ask it here. But, I assume, Brittany, that somebody at Dottie has taken a look at this and they have approved it as far as the curb cuts, if any, the loading and unloading, if any, provisions. Because the street has been radically changed. They've lost a lane of through traffic. And I think the bike lane is on, one of them is on that side. And I wonder if they've done an analysis of how that's going to affect the site.
So this project is going through the city site development plan review process in which Dottie would be a reviewer on this project. Perhaps the applicant can speak a little bit more about the comments they've received from Dottie, because I don't know them off the top of my head.
Yeah, particularly interested in loading and unloading.
It was released from concept, so I do believe that indicates that it is a feasible project.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you.
Or did you have additional questions?
Yeah, the windows on the second floor that are being added. Are these lots? Or is the building and its courtyard one legal lot or one
Yes.
zone lot?
Yes.
Any more questions for staff? Okay, I'm not seeing any, so I think the applicant's here. If you guys would like to sit at the table.
Sure.
For the presentation.
And then I'll flip your presentation and timer. If you could wait to start until I have all that up.
Brittany, you're running the slides, is that right?
I will be, yes.
And if you could start with name and address for the record.
Sure.
Just need to get the timer up. When you're ready.
My name is Chris Davis. I'm with Boss Architecture and I have the address of our company, 3300 East 17th Avenue, Denver, Colorado, 80206. And Brittany just stole everything I was gonna say, but said it better, so I'm not gonna waste your time and repeat the presentation. I keep it high level. 1525 Blake Street is a obviously very important and iconic building within the context of LODO. We appreciate that fully, and it's an honor for us to touch this project and inject a second life into this beloved and familiar relic. It was built originally in 1894 and operated and used as a butcher shop. So we think it's sort of apropos that we're bringing in a steakhouse into the use for the restaurant. It's historically been used as a restaurant. I moved here in 1998 and worked downtown as an architect and remember occasionally imbibing in a mega pint margarita at Rio Grande. So it's been a restaurant for like 50, I think 50 plus years. So we have this beautiful historic building that we want to celebrate. We want to maintain its historic nature and keep it as the primary focus of the, from the public realm perspective, even after our addition has been completed. We're maintaining the historic nature of the building, especially the primary facade with very minimal changes. All of the windows and the openings on the front facade are going to be remaining as existing in their existing conditions. And we are going to repaint the building, which is within the historic context of the building itself. So the only changes that we're proposing are what Brittany had mentioned, which is the building has never been accessible previously. The front doors are 10 inches higher than the sidewalk. And so we are pinning those doors shut in a fashion that will allow them to be unpinned and operable should the building use change. And we're providing a steel rail. Would you mind going to the next slide? Thank you. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. We're proposing a simple steel rail just to, as kind of a wayfinding move to direct people towards the accessible entry, which is our addition. And that design is intentionally recessive and secondary to the facade of the building. The primary purpose for the addition that we're proposing is to provide accessibility to the building, but equally important is that it's creating a beautiful urban street presence on Blake Street. We want it to be this beautiful pedestrian, human scale interaction. It's filtering the activity into the courtyard visually. You're able to see through that, but it's screening that and filtering that. So we think that it's going to be a very magnetic addition to the project. As Brittany mentioned, I'll just repeat it. The scale of it relates to the building's datum, the base of the building, which is a common element throughout Lodo. And the circular concrete breeze block is sort of a modern reinterpretation of a historic detail that exists on the cornice of the building, those circular motifs. This isn't the first version of the design that we came up with, but it's the version that we think is the right solution. And in working with Brittany, to get to this point, we feel like this, confident in the success of this solution. Everything else is really secondary, and maybe I'll just mention that we are actually not going through the SDP process. We've been working with the city, and they've determined that it's not necessary given the amount of additions that we're proposing. There are no new curb cuts. All of the loading for the building will remain happening off of the alley, which is the historic condition, and I believe. Oh, and as far as irrigation on the green roof, it's a hydrotech system, which is it's like a designed tray system that has varying depth planting materials. So it's built with an underlayment of drainage mat and it is irrigated. So it's automatically watered. That water drains down through the system. We've got it piped all the way back out to the alley and got all that that managed. And so we've tried to think of the details and to make this a successful solution. I think that's it.
Great, thank you, Chris.
Yep.
Does anybody have any questions for the applicant? Fred?
Hi, I do want to start, I should have used at the beginning, just by way of disclosure, that I do have a current project with Boss Architecture, the applicants. I don't know anything about this project, and this is the first time I've seen anything about it, and don't feel that I have any conflict, but I just want to make that disclosure.
Thanks, Fred.
I did have a couple of quick questions. Excuse me, but just following up on the curb cut question, are you guys going to be rebuilding the curb and all of that? Because I believe there's existing curb cuts on Blake. Is that part of the scope of the project?
That is not part of the scope of the project at this point,
Okay,
as far as we're aware. I mean, I suppose that could come up as a comment or something, but at this point, it's not.
And so also not planning an additional street tree or anything like that?
No.
Okay. All right, that's really a question for the city, I suppose, to work on. I note that on the left-hand side with the main entrance, you've got a door that closes that entrance. There's like a sliding panel that
Correct,
comes
yes,
across.
yes.
But there's nothing that I could see on the other side at the entrance to the ramp to close that off. Is that correct?
So it's an open air outdoor, the enclosure starts on the right-hand side of that square shaped door that you see.
Mhm.
So you enter into the ramp that leads you up to that level on the right-hand side of that
Mhm.
addition. So, but you're undercover at that point, but you're still outside. So you go behind that first breeze block wall, up the ramp, and then there's the front door to the restaurant is actually perpendicular to the square door that you see, that you're seeing in this elevation, and that's the day-to-day front door to the building. The square door is meant really just to sort of slide that open on nice days. And then you can actually step up into the entry vestibule via that door if you want, or come around the ramp. So it's meant to be multifunctioning.
I do worry that presents a safety and nuisance hazard to have a sheltered space that is open to the street. I think you'll find
I
that
see what you mean.
you regularly get people sleeping there. And also, just as you walk down the street, to have a space that's enclosed like that feels it could feel a little unsafe, could feel unsafe. Anyway, thanks. Those are my questions.
Anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
Yes, hi. With the repair of the windows, do we have a specification submitted on any of the glazing replacements, or is all the existing glazing intact?
All the existing glazing is intact. So, yeah, we will be repairing anything that needs to be repaired, but at this point, there isn't anything identified as. Am I correct on that, Brian?
You are correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so, one of the characteristics of Lodo is having all the clearly defined entries. And we're closing off the historic entry. Can you speak to what your thoughts are on wayfinding to find the main entry? Essentially, then we have two entries now. And I don't, I'm just curious what your thoughts are as to defining the main entry to keep in character with the nature of Lodo, with it being really clear.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be solved via lighting and signage, which we're not there yet on the project, but I think that those are critical elements to make it clear. And I agree with you. That
Okay.
It's gonna be required to make it obvious.
Awesome.
Part of the original proposal that we were talking to Brittany about was obscuring, which I agree isn't the right solution, but obscuring the existing doors a little bit more. We had proposed a base planter element that was as tall as the base of those windows are
Mhm.
and built out to the front of the building. So that have been planted with plant material, and it would have been obvious, and that could have been removed. Those planters could have been removed, but then that would have been obvious that, oh, this is no longer the front door.
Right.
The comment was that maybe that was a little too heavy-handed and something lighter would be more appreciated, so.
We also review signage separately, so there was some like elements of signage in
Yeah.
prior packages that I've asked them to take out. So,
Any further questions?
Thank you.
you.
Thanks.
Is there anybody from the public wishing to comment on this project? If you are joining us virtually, please raise your hand so that we know that you'd like to speak.
no hands raised.
No hands raised. Anybody in the room wishing to speak? Okay, at that point, we will close the presentation portion of it and start deliberation. What's everybody think? Fred?
I think it's a handsome project, and I have a couple of comments that I just want to share, but I don't think they get in the way of my support for the project. One is that I've thought a lot about the issue of transparency of the courtyard. Because my bias is for greater transparency for spaces like that. But I can also understand the excitement and the design element of having a surprise behind a wall essentially. And so I do think the breeze block is probably a good compromise on that and a good balance. But it is something that I've thought about and kind of questioned, turned over in my mind, and I'm sure others have as well. With regards to the original front door, while I understand staff's suggestion to the applicant to take a lighter touch to it, again, given what happens downtown, I have to kind of wonder if at some point there aren't going to be portable planters placed there to prevent people from sleeping there overnight. So, you know, while I get the reasoning behind the railing and not altering it more significantly, I wonder if practical considerations are going to end up with a different solution once the building's in operation. So I just want to throw that out there. I'm always concerned about green roofs because I think the maintenance, from everything I've read about them and discussions I've had, I think the maintenance on them is incredibly challenging in our climate. And so I do have some concern about that, and just hope that ownership recognizes what that's going to involve. Because I would guess it's going to involve replacing parts of the green roof on a semi-regular basis. I am concerned about the ramp entrance not being closed off. Again, I guess that's an operational issue more than a subject for us to really determine at this table. But I think that's probably an issue. And I think it's not really in our remit, but I guess I'd encourage the city to consider whether eliminating the curb cuts and regularizing the pavement out there as part of this project ought to be done. But that's probably Dottie's decision.
I think it has to like meet a threshold for Dottie to require that.
And I look at the project and it's like, this is a pretty huge project. So, yeah, and I know that document, and I know the work that has been done on that document, but it's a pretty significant project. I mean, this is not a small TI. So anyway, thank you. Those are my comments.
I'd like to chime on to what you said. I appreciate your comments about transparency of the courtyard. One thing that I actually really like about having a slightly more opaque screen wall and not so transparent is that when you experience that block right now, that courtyard is a bit of a missing tooth in the street frontage of Flodo. And there's more mass and more solidness to this while still allowing some transparency and some, pops of vision through into the courtyard that help define that street edge in a much better way than what they're currently has been able to achieve with just a very open screen. So I'm actually very supportive of that. I feel like it's a good scale and proportion. It helps strengthen that street frontage a little bit. I kind of share your concerns about being able to close off that ramp at night. I don't know that that's necessarily something that we have a guideline to stand on that says, yes, this has to go in there. I think we can make that a friendly recommendation, that there's some kind of gate or some kind of closure after hours that can seal that off. I also, the comments and the concerns about just a rail at the historic entry and that there may be planters there someday. I think for now, with what is here in front of us, the rail is an appropriate step, and because it's a permanent installation. I agree that at some point they'll probably add some other planters into how large and what mass and how that gets filled in comes at a later date. But if they're movable and shiftable and non-permanent, we may not review those anyway. So generally, I think it's agreed. I think it's a handsome change. green roofs are always tough. The nice part about this is it looks like the roof level is well below the parapet, so if they do die and they took them off, it wouldn't negatively impact how you perceive the roof and that structure, so. Those are my thoughts. Anybody else?
I think it's an exciting project, and my only concern was the addition of the new windows, but I think it's a reasonable, solution.
I think it's a great project. I really appreciate the conversation you two had, the reviews, your notes are solid.
Very thorough.
You guys took the words out of my mouth on that one. I do think though that the entry, while the bar and the rail across is very respectful of the historic fabric, I think it is not necessarily, it's too light of a touch from a pedestrian wayfinding standpoint. And that's why I'm curious in the next iterations to see how entry is called out better. Because right now, well, it sits down, but it feels confusing if I were a pedestrian coming along. I get it too, so and a lot can be done with a sign. So I'm don't know that we need to change course or recommend changing course. With regards to some sort of gate at the bottom of the ramp, I do think it's, I think I would very much agree that we should have a friendly recommendation, because it would be a shame to have to come back in a year or in 6 months and add a gate that's not integrated to the architecture.
I'm impressed with what's been done. And I think what'll happen over the first 6 months is that's when the kind of the soft end of the restaurant will look at how they change 15 years of habit, how you got into the building. And, there will be an opportunity for softness there that will gradually, hopefully change people's minds about this is the entrance. This is not. But we'll see.
I'm less concerned about that. I think as the applicant points out, the lighting and signage will make a huge difference.
Yeah.
I think the railing and what you will see inside those windows, because it will be of how I'm sure that it'll be laid out, will push you away from that. And I think, this is an issue that we face regularly with these older buildings of how to achieve ADA access. And I think this is a good one. I mean, it is so challenging. And if you didn't have that access, I'm not sure what you would do at this stage.
I
So
think
zero
they're
lot
very-
line.
I think they're very fortunate to have that courtyard space that they're able to accommodate that access, which is very much needed in a way that's, I think, done elegantly. And solves a lot of things. I also think to the point about the door, I mean, if you walk down the street and you try to go in that front door, if you look at the floor plan, there are booths right there. You're gonna notice pretty quickly that you can't go in that door. And you'll figure it out, and with signage and things like that, which we'll see later, I think.
I'm
That's
less,
a lot of
I'm less concerned about the sleeping there. I think that'll be a thing that certainly they've overcome it on a couple of the buildings along 15th Street.
Yeah.
And that's been just by constant policing.
And it becomes a maintenance issue in addition to that, just
So,
depending on how you lay that out, stuff will flow in there and all of that. And so some of that's just gonna be an operational issue
Yeah.
that hopefully they're on top of.
that part of it, they supposedly have taken care of over the past 20 years. So we'll see. But I think it can be resolved fairly easily. I think it'll work quite nicely. And I think, Heather, your point about that is an elegant way of doing what needs to be done for access, for that 15 inches of access. That's very true and a very nice way of doing it.
And with regards to the recommended motion, the suggested motion, I think that the conditions are very reasonable and appropriate.
I do agree with Fred's comment about the green roof. Having looked at that in our building, which is Streetcar Stables, built in 1882, I know that's that's a major issue, and if we weren't exempt from a lot of the green roof requirements, I don't know how we'd ever do that. So that is an issue, it's going to be an issue to watch carefully as the plans develop.
They are possible to do well. It is possible, so. Okay, well, it sounds like everyone is in agreement. Somebody care to make a motion?
Sure. Oh, go ahead.
I move to approve with conditions, application 2023 COA 404 for the alterations and addition at 1525 Blake Street as per design policy 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, standards and guidelines 1.14, 1.15, 1.21, 1.22, 1.31, 1.32, 9.12, Denver landmark guidelines 2.28, 2.43, 2.51, 3.5, 3.6, 3.12, 3.13. Presented testimony, submitted documentation and information provided in the staff report with the following conditions. Provide details on skylight design and materials per guideline 3.28 FNI, and provide details on architectural metal finish and profile, and ensure it has a matte finish per guideline 3.6D.
Thank you, Amy. Do we have a second?
Sure, I'll say.
I think Fred got it first. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's unanimous.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Okay, we will move into our second design review item today, which is item 2020 COA 023 1420 Wine Coop Street. Let Jesse get situated here. Sorry.
I'm trying to give you control and it changed the slide.
Quite all right. Okay, so this is 1420 Wine Coop Street. It's currently a vacant lot. Bordered on the west by Wine Coop Street, on the east by Wazee Street, on the north by 1430 Wine Coop Street, which is a contributing building to the district, and on the south by Cherry Creek. The applicant was approved for phase 1 mass form and context on September 5th, 2019, and phase 2 design details on February 6th, 2020. The applicant is currently requesting to revise the phase 2 design details submission for new construction with the following revisions. And I'll kind of go through them. It is a little detailed, but I want to cover it as closely as possible. So the applicant will be removing parking level 3. I didn't show that on this slide here, but it is included in your packet. They will be maintaining parking levels 1 and 2. Additionally, the applicant is proposing to increase the step back from Wine Coop at the northwest corner from 15 feet 6 inches to 28 feet 8 inches, providing additional visual relief from the historic building at 1430 Wine Coop Street. And I don't know, touch on it here. I've highlighted it with these squares. So the applicant is also proposing to add a mezzanine level between level 1 and level 3. This increases the overall number of stories from 8 stories to 9. And that has shifted some of the balconies that were in the previous approval. And then beginning at level 3 and continuing to level 5, the applicant will be stepping the building back from Wine Coop Street at the northwest corner from 28 feet 8 inches to 51 feet 10 inches. The applicant will inset the north wall of the new structure away from the south wall of 1430 Wine Coop Street 5 feet 2 inches for a length of 36 feet 5 inches. And that is here. The applicant will increase the inset on the north wall an additional 5 feet for a length of 156 feet 3 inches. stepping the building back out. For a width of 9 feet 11 inches at the northeast corner. And staff would like to note that the patio areas shown on the 5th floor of the approved plan set have been moved to the 3rd floor in this proposed plan set, and those can be seen right here. And then starting at level 6 and continuing to level 8, the applicant will be maintaining the 51 feet 10 inch step back. So here at the northwest corner, and the 5'2" inset for a length of 36 feet 5 inches on the north wall, but we'll be increasing the 10-foot 2-inch step back on the north wall for a length of 156 feet 3 inches. And that will increase to 157 feet 9 inches here. And then this bump out that's on the lower stories will terminate at the 6th level at a patio. And then starting at level 6 and continuing to level 8, the applicant will be maintaining, oh, sorry, I already covered that one. Finally, for the floor plans, the applicant will be, is proposing to alter the penthouse portion of the building. So that's level 8 in the approved plan set and level 9 in the proposed plan set. The west wine coop facing wall of the house, so this side, will be set back from the front wall of the building 26 feet 4 1/4 inch. The south Cherry Creek side of the penthouse will be set back 15 feet 4 inches. Setback, yeah, it'll change from 15 feet, excuse me. It'll be 15 feet 4 inches, and then we'll recess back further to 15 feet 6 inches, or 16 feet 6 inches on the south wall of the building. And then the east Wazee Street facing side of the wall of the penthouse will be set back from the east wall of the building 32 feet 7 7/8 inch. And on the north wall here at 1430 Wine Coop, the penthouse will be set back between 9 feet 2 inches to 25 feet 6 inches. The roof deck at the building will wrap the northwest and south sides of the penthouse. So here, here, and here. And then mechanical equipment will wrap the north and east side of the building. So here and here. And it looks like the penthouse will be set back 88 feet from the west wine coop wall of the building. Sorry, too fast. So now we'll move on to elevations. So the applicant's only making a few minor adjustments to the approved windows at the first floor of the south elevation. To better accommodate the mezzanine level in the proposed plan set. So here you can see it's much shallower window here at the top, but that has been enlarged here to accommodate that mezzanine. And then they will be adding additional doors at the first floor level to provide patio access for first floor tenants. So those are all right through here and here. But they are maintaining that overall window layout, window and door layout. So not much is changing appearance wise. It's mostly operation that's changing. And then the applicant will be adding clear glass Juliet balconies and doors from levels 3 through 8 on the southwest corner. So here, these are all Juliet balconies. And we'll be maintaining at these balconies, they'll be again maintaining the overall proportions that were in the approved plan set. but the operation is changing. And they will be using a clear glass balcony rail to minimize visibility. And then additionally, the applicant will be adding balconies, recessed balconies to levels 4 through 7. So in the previous plan set, those recessed balconies. Sorry. Being here. So they're at the southwest corner of the building. So here,
The mouth takes a while to catch
Yeah.
on, Jesse.
sorry. I believe they're here. And then additional minor alterations are proposed for window operation and location on the glass zipper. So this section here on the south wall, the new windows will be casement style windows instead of awning style windows and will be used on the mezzanine level through level 8. And that, you know, again, is maintaining that overall previous approval mullion pattern, but it's just changing the operation and increasing the number to accommodate tenants. And then finally, the applicant is proposing to add additional doors and windows on the 9th floor penthouse. So here, and is proposing to extend the canopy on the penthouse roughly 28 feet to the east. So on the east side of the building, the applicant is proposing two changes. The addition of casement windows on levels 3 through 5, and the addition of Juliet balconies and doors on levels 3 through 5. The proposed casement window addition will fit within approved mullion patterns and will not significantly alter the appearance of the previous approval, same as on the other elevations, which I'll cover in a little bit. So the proposed casement windows, so the applicant will be adding, again, clear glass Juliet balconies to levels 3 through 5 on the northeast corner of the building. And we'll be maintaining that overall volume pattern and opening size to reduce visibility of those alterations. In addition to the Juliet balconies and doors to the street facing facade below 55 feet have been, or excuse me, oh, I guess I pulled from the wrong, no, this is the correct side. So a portion of the addition of Juliet balconies, the doors to the street facing facade below 55 feet. That was slightly concerning to staff. However, this portion of the guideline is a preference requirement. So, you know, we did have quite a bit of discussion about the addition of the Juliet balconies, especially on these street facing facades. But ultimately determined that they aren't significantly changing the mullion pattern on these openings. The balcony railings will be clear glass, and it's to allow, you know, some outdoor space for tenants on these floors. And then on the west Wine Coop Street facing elevation, the addition of casement windows on levels 3 through 8, and the addition of Juliet balconies and doors on the metal clad building zipper on levels 3 through 8. So this structure right here is the zipper. And then there'll be and the removal of the first floor entry door on the metal zipper. So the entry door here, that's just been converted back to windows. The proposed casement window addition will fit within the approved mullion patterns and will not significantly alter the appearance of the previous approval. The applicant will be adding clear glass Juliet balconies and doors to levels 3 through 8 on the northwest corner of the building. So here. Excuse me, here. And those are significantly set back. They're 51 feet 10 inches back from the front facade of the street facing wall. And then finally, the applicant will be removing the entry door at the first floor levels at zipper, as I pointed out. Again, on at all of these points, the applicant is maintaining that previous approved mullion pattern. So staff didn't see like a significant impact on the design. And then finally, the north facade, which faces onto 1430 Wine Coop Street, that historic or contributing building. The applicant will be making pretty significant changes to this elevation. So they will be stepping back the metal clad building zipper, 28 feet 8 inches to 51 feet 10 inches. So here they step it back from this first floor to, or excuse me, these lower levels to this metal portion here. That's where the new step backs are coming in. They'll be increasing the brick portion of the building by 2 bays. So this portion here will be increased from 1 to 3 bays in depth. And then the applicant will be adding clear glass Juliet balconies to levels 3 through 8 on the northwest corner of the building, as well as levels 4 through 8 on the main body of the north elevation. So here, and then on the main body of the elevation, there are Juliet balconies that are added. The applicant will be maintaining the overall mullion pattern on these openings, but we'll be adding doors with clear glass railings. And then the applicant will be proposing 3 windows matching the previously approved window configuration on the 36-foot 5-inch bump out. So here, that's changed pretty significantly. Staff did have some mild concerns over the solid void spacing on this bump out, but feel it may be minimally visible, as it is more than 51 feet 10 inches from the west elevation. And it's on that interior lot side. And then an additional alteration to the window openings can be found on the metal panel zipper. So here, at the center of the north elevation, previously the windows on this location were paired awnings and fixed mullion windows. The applicant has altered these to single punched openings. Staff did have concerns over the additional window type on this elevation, but feeling that it may visually disrupt the established opening rhythms on the building, but also note this is a portion of the building that will be minimally visible. And there is some flexibility within the guidelines to allow for differing window openings. And then finally, the applicant is proposing to remove the window openings on levels 3 through 5. So in this red square here, on the northeast corner of the building. And we do have pretty significant concerns over the loss of these openings. At this corner, we do realize they have kind of a banding detail there in the brick to maintain the opening portions, but there aren't actually openings there. And we feel that it disrupts the window rhythms established on the building at a very visible corner of the building facing onto Wazie Street. And then here finally are some renderings of the proposed building. The application materials have additional drawings and details in the packets for your review. However, we felt that this presentation captures the salient informations that are happening, or salient alterations that are happening on the site. Staff is recommending approval of this application with the condition that the windows be added back to the northeast corner of levels 3 through 5. So this section here that I just went over. And we are citing guidelines 5.31 and 5.32.
Great, thank you, Desi. Does any commissioner have any questions for staff?
On the northeast corner at the windows in question, the adjacent building, could a new building ever be built there of similar scale?
I'm not sure. I'd have to look up additional details on what is next door. I believe that it's non-contributing and there's partially a parking lot on that side. But I'll have to do some additional research for you.
No worries, thank you.
Any other questions for Jesse? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thanks, Jesse. At this time, we'd like to invite the applicants for their presentation, assuming that they're virtual. Okay. We'll get you guys set up to present in just a moment.
Morning.
Morning.
Are you able to hear me? Obviously, yes.
We are, yes.
Good.
I think we're ready for you. If you could start with your name and address for the record, please.
Absolutely. My name's Nate Jenkins. I'm a principal at Oz and have been in Denver since the mid 2000s. Our physical address is 3003 Larimer Street in Denver, 80205. So I guess the clock's running. Thank you so much. Yeah, good morning to you all. I think although this is the first time meeting many of you regarding this project and in general, it's obviously not the first time this project has been presented to the commission, formerly known as the board. And we're thrilled to be partnering with a longtime invested developer based out of Denver, Westfield, to make the 1420 building become a reality that we started with now more than 8 years ago. It's been a good run. I know it likely goes without saying, but I think to honor this site, I think it's the importance of filling this parking lot with the built reality of what we're proposing and completing the vital connection of Wynkoop to the creek. And frankly, the future plan developments to its south has only become more significant. And we're thrilled, as we have always been, with the opportunities the site represents. I think it's also important to note that the historically contributing building 1430 is now in tremendous hands. And we're currently designing the interior for a full building office user, one who's not only local to Denver, but whose current office space recently won an AIA award, just found across the street from us along Wazee. So we're thrilled with the symbiosis of this and the fact that that building, which was for the longest time part of what's prevented this development from happening, is now going to be highly contributing to the activity and activation of this end of Wynkoop. So we're thrilled about that. I think specific to the design of this building, we hope you see a simplification of the program leading to a more obvious exterior diagram. It's clearer, it's less noisy. We don't have the horizontal mixed use or the vertically mixed use building that the office use once presented to us. And so we think we are actually presenting to you a more refined and sophisticated outcome than what was approved now 3.5 years ago. So I know it's, while the materials throughout are unchanged and the detailing of the windows largely remain unchanged to what was approved, I think it's important to add, as Jesse has frankly done a wonderful job summarizing, that we do have a more articulated window set that we think adds to the granularity and the nature, the authentic nature of this district. Although not a significant part of the commission's review, I think the activity and the functions of the first floor, the vitality of it, that first floor and its engagement with Wynkoop from Wynkoop along the public arcade that was fundamental to the basis of this, the conceptualization of this project, and ultimately the execution of it all the way through to Wazee is paramount. And we think what's been proposed has a more vital opportunity than what was originally approved. And I guess to address the one item of concern, I think it's fair within the staff report. Our building does sit at a zero lot line at that location, and it's immediate and adjacent to the west end loft parking structure. And although the likelihood of that being developed is low, it's not to be a non-factor. And although we do see a need, we understand the concern. We've proposed a detail that we think is resonant with and consistent with other parts of historic buildings in Lodo where windows have been infilled. And we intend to detail it as such. If we haven't done a good job there, we intend to. And I think just in talking about it as a team, since we've gotten the commentary from Jesse, we do imagine it to be something maybe different than brick, or if it is brick, detailing it in a way that is intentional and not, but we didn't feel glass was appropriate there with having conversations in the, now 3.5 years since the design details approval with Denver Fire, things like deluge systems and other factors that would need to be applied to this, the windows at that zero lot line have created some pause. So it's not a no at all. We understand that's a direction and a suggestion. So we're here to hear not only that comment, but all of those questions and comments that you as a commission might have. And I guess I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Great, thank you, Nate. Does any commission member have questions for the applicant? Okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you, Nate.
Thank you.
Jesse, do we have any staff recap? Okay, do
I
we?
have something.
Okay.
So the West End Loft is a contributing building to the historic district, so we would not allow its demolition. But there is that parking structure that serves the West End Loft immediately adjacent to the site that potentially could get demolished. It's highly unlikely as it's the parking for these residential uses, but it is only a 25-foot wide lot. So it would be not developable to this height, likely. Not impossible, but not likely.
Thank you, Brittany. Is there any member of the public that wants to speak on this project? Please raise your hand if you're joining us virtually and would like to speak. Okay, not seeing any, and no one here in public. Okay. All right, so we will kind of close that and open for deliberations. Fred,
Sure, I'll kick off.
you look like you have something to say.
Yeah, I mean, I've been contemplating the north elevation and I understand staff's point, but it is on the property line. And that presents some construction issues, et cetera, that are a challenge. And I'm not opposed, I think, to the idea of blind openings. I think I'm a little more concerned on that north elevation and the changes that have been made. If you can go back to the slide from staff presentation that showed the north elevation.
Brittany's working on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the things I like about the approved one is that even though that north elevation is not street facing, with that low parking structure, I think that north elevation is still quite visible from the street. And in the originally approved plans, there was a continuation of the defined sort of 4-story module with the piece on top. And that's, I think, very much been lost and gives a very stark kind of institutional facade now that feels to me a lot less appropriate than what was originally approved. But I'm sure that some of my colleagues can articulate that a little bit better than I just did. Thanks.
I think where I struggle a little bit on the north is, I agree, I think that because of that low kind of one-story parking enclosure, it is gonna be fairly visible, at least the first several bays. I think it's further, you get in towards the middle of the lot, the less visible it will be. I think just, you know, unless you're standing in the parking garage and looking up, I don't think you're gonna see it as much. I feel like that the piece with the blind window proportionally feels a little narrow to me. And it's kind of with that your same comment, Fred, that the originally reviewed and approved detail had more of a datum that went all the way across, and it was a change in color in the material, but it was still a datum that was there. And I think that a little bit of that got lost. I hear the argument about, yes, it's right on the property line, and, you know, there are building code issues with windows. I would argue that it possibly wouldn't necessarily need to be. You know, on the other side, on the Wine Coop side, they have, you know, it's 5 feet away from the adjacent property line, so there's a little bit of breathing room and you have some flexibility with building code. And I think, you know, I don't want to design it for them, but looking at the plan, I think that if we were to take the mass of that kind of beige brick element and make it a little wider and extend that datum back a little bit more, that they could have some breathing room in their plan to push it away from the facade and introduce some windows again. And have all of that feel a little bit better. So I'm not saying that that's the only solution. I think that kind of working out that corner and adjusting the proportion a little bit and reintroducing those windows, I think would be a benefit to the project. And I think would help some of the other window changes that they've made on that interior lot line side, the north side, a little less impactful, and still work with their plan and their program.
Feels like we're both concerned about the same issue.
Yep.
And the question is how to resolve that, but I think we're both concerned that that datum line has been lost. And it is visible. It is, I mean, I think it's gonna be prominent on from Wazee.
I agree with both of those comments, and that corner, yeah, I think. All the other changes, I have no issue with. I take no issue. I think actually the addition of making it mostly residential at this point is a great addition to the area. But that corner does, I think, need some work, and I'm hesitant to embrace the idea of putting the windows back right on that lot line with its current floor plan layout. If you could get a little relief and get some windows in there, great. But without having designed it for or designing it, I agree that there's an issue.
I agree from a code and life safety standpoint. I don't think we can force them to put windows on that and maintain that at the lot line.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm encouraging taking another look at that corner in particular and seeing if you can get some
Yeah.
property line relief and be able to introduce some windows again. I don't think that they'll be as large necessarily. There may be several windows or, you know, a couple of windows that are a smaller scale and proportion.
Right. And without jumping ahead to conditions, I think a more appropriate condition would be to relook at that corner versus mandating a window return.
I agree. Also, I think that it came up and it was a concern and a friendly recommendation when we approved this originally, but the little notch on Wine Coop Street between the adjacent building and the new building, with it set back further, you know, much like the previous application, that just becomes a nice inviting courtyard. And so if there are considerations for adding, I mean, it looks like it's there partially for egress. If there are concerns about, you know, needing to patio that off or rail that off, I just want to make sure that that's thought about and is not an afterthought or comes in later and isn't integrated in.
In the overall site context, though, if you look at the rendering on page 22 of the package, you know, there, I mean, there is a 5-story building that's just one building over, followed by a 4-story and then like a 6-story building. So I'm not sure how visible really the northern portion is. I agree with you that that corner, you know, does kind of stick out there. It is going to be visible adjacent to the 1-story building. You know, perhaps I think window introductions, you know, would be really nice on there. Perhaps it doesn't need to be the full bay up the window, the full width that was previously proposed. Perhaps it is, you know, half of that and resides on the corner that is visible. It does appear that, you know, the proposed unit plan wouldn't necessarily be affected, you know, should something be constructed adjacent to it in the future, and those, you know, would be necessary to infill. Because their living room sits, you know, overlooking, you know, the street there.
I am kind of just doing a street view walk down Wazee, and that's what led me to be concerned about how much of it I think we're really gonna see.
Do the same thing. I do think you'll see the first bay or two. I'm less concerned, like I said, the further you move into the middle of the block, I'm less concerned about it, but that first bay or two right on the corner, I think will be very visible. You know, as you pop the higher levels, you know, we'll see those have always kind of had a residential layout to the window spacing, but
Yeah,
I think you'll see a bit more of that.
I do, and I'm just concerned that it will feel a little bit like that was the back of the building.
I agree.
The pedestrian realm is so important.
Also from the creek side. Looking up that way too. That'd be an issue. I think you're right. Focusing on that corridor was the one thing that kind of moved down as being a little bit kludgy.
Yeah, I mean, if you, and I just, you think about the facade that faces it. Just feels so intentional with the balconies. It doesn't feel respectful. You know, it's a very subjective comment, but
Can you guys speak up a little bit?
sure. But it sounds like there's broadish agreement that that corner ought to be restudied.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Oh.
And that there are some solutions here to work.
It's, I think that
It doesn't feel like a conditional approval, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
that was gonna be my question is if, you know, I think
Yeah.
typically we do something that's conditional, we need to have
Yeah.
a firm enough condition that staff can review it.
I mean, would we be comfortable saying something like, making a condition that either the windows need to be added back in regardless of constructability construction, or the bay needs to be extended and pulled back? And can we give an either or?
I don't think so. I think what you're saying is correct. Like, this isn't really a condition. I think what we've heard is, I think that the commission as a whole takes exception to how that corner has been dealt with.
Yeah.
Would like to see it restudied. That feels to me like a denial. Asking the applicant to restudy that corner.
I feel like if we were at mass form, it would be a little bit easier to be looser with the condition because there's a design detail phase, but this is design detail, so I think we have to be either specific or deny and let the testimony kind of show for the applicant that really the only thing we're taking issue with is that corner, that north corner on Wasley Street, and that we don't take exception to the other changes that they've made.
And I think that that's not an unreasonable denial. I think that that's, I mean, it's an important detail that staff had concerns about as well. And
And ultimately, we've seen a lot of changes to the mass of the building on some of these points, so I agree, it's reasonable.
We're in agreement. Somebody care to make a motion?
Give it a shot,
All right,
bring up the right verbiage here. All right, so I move to deny application 2020 COA 023 for the revisions to phase 2 design detail submission for the new construction at 1430 Wynkoop Street. As per, do we need to say all the design policies?
You can say, for the design guidelines for new construction.
For the design guidelines for new construction, presented testimony, submitted documentation and information provided in the staff report.
thank you, Craig. Do we have a second? Tom?
Madam Chair, before you call the question, it seems like the discussion was based really on guideline 5.3.1. Would the board agree on that?
Yeah, I was actually, thank you, Adam, was gonna make a friendly recommendation to modify the motion to cite that guideline. I do still think that guideline is applicable.
Do I need to re-say that or are we good?
No, Heather has,
Just done it.
so do you accept?
Do you accept
I
the-
do accept that. Thank you.
And do you accept Tom?
as our seconder? Okay. So all of those in favor of the motion with the modification to include guideline 5.3.1, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? It is unanimous. Okay, thank you. That closes our design review. We do have a business item to discuss today.
So, we are gonna look at 2024 meeting dates, just in case we don't have a meeting in November or December. So the ordinance states that the commission will meet on the first and third Tuesday, or sorry, that's for LPC, first and second Tuesday of every month. The second Tuesday is the over Thursday. So sorry.
Okay.
The second Tuesday is an overflow meeting. We hold that meeting if depending on the number of applications we receive. So generally speaking, for 2024, we are recommending the regular meeting dates with the exception of February. So the CPI conference is January 31st to February 2nd. And that is held in Boulder. Many of staff do attend the CPI conference. I know many of the commissioners do as well. So we're recommending adjustment to the second and third Tuesday of or Thursday of February, which will be the 8th and 15th. And then in July, the first Thursday is July 4th. We are obviously closed for the July 4th holiday. So we are recommending July 11th and 18th as well. So if there is no further discussion, I do have a motion, but if you guys want us to discuss the dates further, we can always look at alternate dates.
Yeah, these all work for me.
But you do officially have to make a motion and adopt those.
I'll try to do this one a little better here. Cause I can read it. I move to adopt the 2024 Lower Downtown Design Review Commission meeting dates with an adjustment to the February and July meeting dates to occur on the second and third Thursday of February and July.
Thank you, Craig.
second.
Thank you, Fred. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Okay, thank you, everybody. Anything else, business or discussion?
I just do have one discussion item. We brought this up with LPC about potentially amending the bylaws to allow commissioners to attend virtually if you have COVID or some other illness that prevents you from coming in person. We would still need a quorum in person, so it would, be pretty limited as to why there would be virtual attendance. But it may help, pass motions if there's disagreement amongst the commission. In that case, we would have to amend the bylaws. Currently, our bylaws allow us to switch back to an all virtual format if there's another state of emergency or some citywide declaration of emergency. So if you guys are interested in that, we're happy to look at that. But if you guys do not have interest in that, it's just with COVID resurging again, we thought it might be good to bring up with the commission.
Is that a lot of extra work, guys?
I don't know if it's a lot of extra work. We would amend the bylaws, bring it as a discussion item, and then the next meeting you guys would officially vote on it. And again, it would be pretty limited as to why you could attend virtually.
Move we do it, then, or suggest we should do it.
Seems like a useful tool to keep the rest of the business moving.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
The toolbox.
As long as it's made clear in the bylaws what it's for.
Yeah.
That it's not so that, well,
I don't wanna
feel
come
like-
in, yeah.
Mhm.
LPC had similar concerns.
I think being clear about that in the bylaws is, and maybe. I don't know how you word that. I guess the city attorney will work on that. You guys are working together, but.
Okay,
just to-
that's it.
All right. Thanks, everybody. I will adjourn the meeting at 9:57. Thanks, everyone.